We have a seismic shift happening right now in the Sunshine State. But instead of embracing freedom, some parts of Florida are actively trying to suppress it. And it's freaking infuriating. You see, Florida, a state already known as the Gunshine State, has finally had its decades-old ban on openly carrying firearms declared unconstitutional. This is a massive win for the Second Amendment and for the rights of law-abiding adult citizens who simply want to bear arms in public. But hold on, guys, because local law enforcement agencies and elected officials in various districts are actively creating a legal mess, issuing mixed signals that leave gun owners confused and vulnerable to prosecution. This isn't some harmless bureaucratic hiccup. It's a political maneuver, a dereliction of duty by sheriffs who are choosing to uphold outdated statutes from 1987 over the U.S. Constitution. Today, we're going to break down exactly what this ruling means, why law enforcement is fighting it, and what you, the gun owner, need to know to navigate this confusing, newly opened landscape. Make sure you hit that subscribe button right now because these laws are changing daily, and we have to stay informed. Let's dive straight into the facts. On September 10, 2025, the First District Court of Appeal in Tallahassee dropped a bombshell. A three-judge panel struck down Florida's 1987 open carry ban, calling it unconstitutional. That's massive. Florida just joined the majority of states that actually respect the right to bear arms openly, leaving places like California, Connecticut, and Illinois still clinging to bans. This decision all ties back to the U.S. Supreme Court's 2022 Bruin ruling, which said gun laws have to line up with the nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation. Judge Stephanie W. Ray, appointed by Governor Charlie Crist, wrote that no historical tradition supports Florida's open carry ban. In plain English, history proves Americans have always had the right to carry openly, and the state can't just erase that right for law-abiding adults. Now, here's the guy who kicked this all off. Stanley Victor McDaniels, 42, from Pensacola. On July 4, 2022, he live-streamed himself carrying a loaded Beretta pistol on his waistband, waving a copy of the Constitution, daring the system to challenge him. He was calm, respectful, and totally clear he wanted this fight to reach the highest court. McDaniels got convicted, 6 months probation, community service, and lost his gun. But now the appeals court wiped that conviction clean. His defiance just reshaped Florida law. Remember, the Florida Supreme Court upheld the ban in Norman v. State 2017, but Bruin flipped the script. The First District's ruling blew the doors open statewide, marking a historic return to true constitutional carry. As Sean Carana of Florida Open Carry put it, there's no history supporting a ban like this. This isn't just a win. It's a restoration of liberty. Man, so, right after the September 10, 2025 ruling, chaos hit Florida. People everywhere were asking, wait, does this mean we can open carry now? Even cops outside the First District didn't know if the decision applied to them. Technically, yeah. The appellate court's ruling took effect immediately, but with that 15-day appeal window, things got fuzzy fast. Enter Attorney General James Uthmeier, a hardcore Second Amendment guy and former DeSantis chief of staff, who jumped in to clear the fog. On September 15th, he issued a statewide memo telling every sheriff, police chief, and prosecutor straight up. As of last week, open carry is the law of the state. Boom! That was the official green light. Then he went even further, saying his office won't appeal to the Florida Supreme Court because he supports the ruling. He called it a big win for the Second Amendment rights of Floridians and announced the state will stop defending any convictions based on the old 1987 concealed-only law. Some areas reacted instantly. In Gainesville, State Attorney Brian Kramer said his office would stop prosecuting open carry cases before Uthmeier even hit send on his memo. Deputies were told don't arrest people just for openly carrying a pistol or rifle, but Uthmeier also threw in two key reminders. One, old convictions stay as they are because they were legal at the time. Two, open carry doesn't mean brandishing. Wave that gun around in a rude, careless, or threatening way, and you're still breaking the law. Technically, the shift wasn't final until September 25th, the last day to request a rehearing. Still, Uthmeier's stance made it clear open carry was already the new reality across Florida. But while the Attorney General moved swiftly to clarify the law, not everyone got the memo. Here's the crazy part. While the AG and governor were celebrating the return of constitutional rights, some sheriffs flat out refused to follow suit. Instead of backing liberty, they're clinging to outdated statutes, and it's turning into a legal nightmare. Their argument, the First District Court only covers 32 counties, and since the 1987 ban is still on the books, they claim they're obligated to enforce it until the Supreme Court or legislature removes it. But dude, that logic doesn't hold water. These sheriffs are constitutional officers, not statute babysitters. Their real duty is to uphold the U.S. Constitution, not an obsolete law that's already been struck down. And here's the kicker. By continuing to enforce it, they're setting themselves up for massive lawsuits. Arresting someone for open carry now could be a straight-up civil rights violation. To make things worse, counties are sending mixed signals. In one place, open carry's allowed in parts of government buildings. Across the line, it's banned. That patchwork is confusing and dangerous for law-abiding citizens. Bottom line, when law enforcement refuses to recognize a constitutional shift, it's the people who pay. The right to bear arms shouldn't depend on what county you're standing in. Man, one critical aspect of this legal change that everyone needs to understand is the distinction between public property and private property. While the court ruling definitively ended the statewide ban on public streets, sidewalks, and open spaces, it does not override the long-standing right of private property owners to set their own rules. This means private businesses, from small shops to huge retailers, can still absolutely ban both open and concealed carry on their premises. This brings us to the Publix paradox. Publix Supermarkets, Florida's largest grocery chain, which operates over 900 stores in the state, made a massive announcement shortly after the AG's guidance. They stated that they would allow customers to carry firearms openly inside their stores, explicitly aligning their policy with the new state law. A spokesperson for Publix emphasized that the company follows all federal, state, and local laws, and that treating customers with dignity and respect is a founding belief. This is a noteworthy shift, especially since Publix previously requested back in 2021 that customers no longer openly carry in their stores, even in states where it was legal. This decision has been met with typical mixed reactions. Gun control groups, like those represented by Shannon Watts of Moms Demand Action, immediately criticized the move, claiming they would take their business elsewhere. Conversely, many Second Amendment supporters cheered the move, viewing Publix as a class act for respecting the constitutional rights of their patrons. As one customer, Erica McKeon, stated, she felt a sense of control, preferring to know if someone is carrying a firearm rather than being caught off guard. However, the corporate landscape is split. While Publix is respecting the new law, Several major competitors are holding the line. Winn-Dixie, along with big box stores like Walmart and Sam's Club, have publicly stated they will continue to prohibit open carry in their Florida establishments. Winn-Dixie explicitly asked customers to secure firearms safely before entering. For private employers, the stakes are high, but the rules are clear if a customer or visitor refuses to leave when asked because they are carrying a firearm. They can be charged with armed trespass, which is a third-degree felony. Businesses are now being advised to post clear, conspicuous signage at every public entrance stating "No firearms allowed," and to train their staff on how to politely request compliance or escalate the situation to law enforcement. The business decision, according to legal analysts, often boils down to risk management, with insurance underwriters potentially factoring in prohibitive policies against gun violence claims and general liability. The Publix decision is a huge statement, aligning Florida's largest retailer with the spirit of the Second Amendment, setting a massive precedent for the retail industry across the state. Before we start high-fiving over this massive win for open carry in Florida, let's pump the brakes for a second, because this right ain't absolute. The court knocked down the ban, not every single restriction. There are still plenty of no-go zones you need to respect. First up, sensitive places. Florida law still bans firearms, open or concealed, in spots like police stations, jails, courthouses, polling places, government meetings, schools, colleges, and airport terminals. Even restaurants are tricky. You can't carry in any part mainly serving alcohol. So, if you're grabbing wings at a bar, pay attention to where that firearm is. Dude, next, how you carry matters. AG. James Uthmeier was super clear: open carry doesn't mean you can go flashing your gun around. You can't display it in a rude, careless, or threatening way. The whole point of constitutional carry is responsible self-defense, not intimidation. Now let's talk vehicles. Florida's Bring Your Guns to Work, or Section 790.251, is still rock solid. Employers can't stop you from keeping a legal firearm locked inside or attached to your private vehicle in the parking lot. They can't search your car or fire you for it either. The only rule: the gun stays secured and only comes out for self-defense. For non-permit carry inside a vehicle, it still has to take 2 steps to access: snapped holster, zipped bag, glove box, not tossed under your seat. Finally, this fight ain't over. The Florida Supreme Court still needs to weigh in since the 2017 Norman case upheld the old ban. Gun control groups are already losing their minds, calling the AG reckless, so stay alert. Freedom's winning, but the battle's far from done. Be real, my friends. What we're seeing in Florida right now is straight-up constitutional rights colliding with political resistance. Governor Ron DeSantis has been all in on expanding gun rights. He pushed permitless carry back in July 2023 and cheered this new court ruling, saying it finally puts Florida in line with most of the country. He even hinted that if lawmakers had sent him an open carry bill earlier, he would have signed it without hesitation. But yeah, old resistance still lingers, especially among certain law enforcement leaders and Democratic legislators. For decades, lawmakers shut down every attempt to repeal that 1987 open carry ban, leaning on fears from police chiefs and sheriffs who warned it'd turn Florida into the wilder West. Now, that same fear is fueling defiance. These sheriffs claim they're just following the law, but enforcing an unconstitutional statute isn't protecting order. It's violating their oath to the U.S. Constitution. Critics like Nikki Fried and groups like Everytown argue open carry will make people less safe and confuse cops, but dude, that logic falls apart fast. Law-abiding citizens have carried concealed for decades without chaos. Why is visibility suddenly the problem? Criminals don't follow gun laws anyway. And here's the deal. Gun owners in this state better stay sharp, because laws keep changing faster than you can rack a slide. You might be legal in one county and facing charges in the next. That's exactly why legal coverage, like attorneys on retainer, matters. It protects you when politics and confusion collide. Bottom line, open carry is legal statewide for eligible adults. Respect sensitive zones, respect private property, and keep pushing back until every official in Florida honors the Constitution. This is nuts. Florida just went from having one of the strictest open carry bans in America to completely wiping it out overnight, all thanks to a proper reading of the Second Amendment under the Bruin framework. That move officially puts Florida in line with southern neighbors like Alabama, Georgia, and Kentucky, where permitless open or concealed carry is already the norm. Now, before everyone celebrates, remember, this freedom only applies to law-abiding adults who can legally own firearms. If you're a convicted felon or under a domestic violence injunction, you're still prohibited. Even McDaniels, the guy whose case sparked this whole thing, had separate misdemeanor charges tied to a domestic injunction, proving other laws still fully apply. The corporate world's reacting fast too. Publix embraced the change, allowing open carry inside stores. But others, like Winn-Dixie, Walmart, and Sam's Club, are sticking with bans. And that's their right as private property owners. Gun owners need to read the signs. Man, if a store tells you to leave and you don't, that's armed trespass, a felony. On the legislative side, lawmakers failed for years to pass open carry bills, but now the appeals court basically made those efforts irrelevant. When they reconvene in January, they need to codify the right and clean outdated laws off the books. The term public still causes confusion, and some officials aren't sure where open carry truly applies. Until the Florida Supreme Court or the legislature clears it up, this is a messy battlefield. Stay sharp, stay informed, and keep pressure on your sheriffs to follow the Constitution. This is a massive win, but man, the fight to protect it is just getting started. So, there it is. Guys, the open carry ban in Florida is officially unconstitutional, a huge win for the Second Amendment and a restoration of historical liberty. Attorney General James Uthmeier has made it the law of the state. But the resistance from some local sheriffs who cling to outdated 1987 statutes is creating unnecessary legal risk for every law-abiding citizen. We must push for clarity from the Supreme Court and the legislature while respecting the rights of private property owners like Winn-Dixie and the new policy at Publix. This is our freedom. Dude, but we have to fight to enforce it. I'd love to hear your opinion. Do you think the sheriffs refusing to enforce the ban are putting themselves at risk of civil lawsuits? Let me know down below. See you in the next one, and as always, hold them down.